at a USA Today article by Kevin Johnson that featured the impact that solitary confinement had on those that had spent extended periods of time on it. This example of exile by force certainly relates to our study of at least two examples from the Exile book of Anglo-Saxon poetry, the Wife's Lament and the Wanderer. What you're going to find today for Tuesday is an assignment that's titled The Emotional Impact of Exile. And we're going to be starting with just the early stages of an essay that we're going to be writing, okay? The prompt, which you don't need to worry about yet per se, is this. In a 4-paragraph essay, explain the impact that exile by force can have on a person's mental and emotional health. In your writing, make reference to Kevin Johnson's USA Today article and include textual evidence from The Wanderer and The Wife's Lament. Now, in this particular case, we're going to start with step 1, which is really just looking for that evidence in The Wanderer and The Wife's Lament. And it's going to be great practice for us in for how to cite poetry in a formal essay. We're going to be using MLA format, which is used typically in the humanities, the English and history fields, although APA is another common documentation style that is often used at the college level. But you're going to see that you have a worksheet. Well, let's talk first. You have both PDFs posted here to The Wanderer. It's here, and The Wife's Lament is here. The actual task or assignment sheet itself is going to look like this today. Let me make myself a little smaller here. Boop. Let me use my magnifying glass tool to zoom in a little bit further, actually. Boop. All right, so here you have it. I'm calling this the quote selection planning worksheet today. I do give some guidelines for citing lines of poetry to pay attention to, and there's also a slideshow attached that you can refer to for how to do that. The evidence that you pick, if you want to pick a quote, I ask you guys in the worksheet here to kind of pay attention to the punctuation in the poem. A sentence can begin in the middle of one poetic line and end in the middle of another. Just pay attention to where the sentence starts and where it ends. You're going to put a right slash, so to the right, at the end of each poetic line, even if it's in the middle of an actual sentence. Again, you have to pay attention to where that period stops. An example of that I can show you real quick is if I pull up The Wanderer and I scroll down. I'm going to zoom in on this for us. Let me find a good example. I guess this doesn't have periods in the middle of the lines. I guess this line's all, for this particular piece, the periods all end at the end, so that's pretty convenient. However, what I would note is the start of this sentence is actually this E in even. Even in slumber his sorrow assaileth, comma, and, comma, dreaming he claspeth his dear Lord again, comma, head on knee, hand on knee, comma, loyally laying, comma, pledging his liege, as in days long past, period. So just pay attention to where your sentence actually starts and where it finishes. Here's an example up here. In line 14, after this exclamation point, we have the start of a new thought, capital F, a new sentence, for, comma, woe of heart withstandeth not fate, colon, a failing spirit earneth no help, period. It ends in the middle of the line. Now, to go back to the point I was trying to make, you will use slashes at the end of each poetic line, even if that's not where the sentence itself stops. And that's to indicate kind of how it was framed in the actual poetic form. If a word is capitalized in the poem, you're going to capitalize it exactly as it exists when you recopy it. And you're going to make sure you put your line numbers in parentheses, okay? We're not going to use page numbers. We're going to use line numbers, so these lines on the left-hand side. Basically, I have set it up so that you're going to do a little explanation first of the emotional or mental state of the speaker in the first poem, The Wanderer. And I ask you to do it in 2 to 3 sentences. Tell me how this person is feeling. You should be able to take that away. It's not going to explicitly say, I am sad, but there's going to be some kind of evidence that the speaker is sad in this poem. So explain that. What's he sad about? How is he super depressed? Is he only mildly depressed? Is he grieving? Is he angry? This is what I'm looking for here. All right, for item 2, I'm going to say, okay, what evidence supports your assessment of this speaker's mental or emotional state? This is where you're going to put, quotation marks around your evidence. You're going to use slashes to indicate the break between the lines, and you're going to imitate any capitalization that appears in the text. You're going to then recreate when you retype. I do add in this presentation, if you are going to cite 4 or more lines of poetry, you actually don't use slashes You can type it exactly as it appears physically on the page, and that means when one line ends, you hit enter and go on to the next. And when I say line, I mean poetic line. I'm not talking about sentences when I say that. This is an example of it's on the model body paragraph that integrated a quote of 4 or more lines, and this will be how we package it later. But notice this is exactly how it would have appeared in the original poem, okay? So that's what you're going to do. You're going to do the same thing for the wife's lament, okay? You're going to assess the wife's mental or emotional state in 2 to 3 sentences. How is she feeling? Why, angry, depressed, mournful, use all kinds of adjectives like that. And then what evidence in the poem supports your assessment of this mental, let's just say her mental or emotional state? It can be from more than one place in the poem, too. You're going to use direct quotes and apply the guidelines for citing poetry noted at the start of this handout. As a closing thought, I guess I just want to ask the question, what are the emotional states of the speakers of The Wanderer and The Wife's Lament and Sylvester Segovia from the USA Today article? What do they have in common? Because that's kind of your big idea that you're going to be exploring in the essay, the emotional toll or damage that exile by force can have on a person. Okay, we can always go over formatting once you're in class together. Again, if you're in person, or my remote people on Wednesday, if you have more questions, but I would like to see it attempted today. Okay, reach out with questions, and I look forward to seeing or hearing from you all. Bye.